It's that time of the week when former football and sports stars share their stories. It happens all right here, right now, on Thursday Night Tailgate. With your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari. Guys, have some fun. Enjoy the guests. Take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Greetings, everybody, and thank you for making Thursday Night Tailgate a part of your week. We are your home for interviews and conversations with the greatest players in the history of the NFL and home of the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari here with you for the next couple of hours. TNT is brought to you tonight by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, and the French Lick Resort. Bob and I, we got a great lineup that we're looking forward to sharing with you tonight. First up is going to be, we're going to get a return visit from a longtime friend and former Browns and Broncos and Bills linebacker, Andra Davis. Tonight's show, folks, is number 264 for us, and Andre first joined us all the way back in April of 2012 on episode number 30. So he's been a wonderful friend, a great supporter of the show over the years. We'll get his take on his alma mater, the University of Florida, plus all of his former teams. Andre is going to be along with us here about 15 minutes from now. At the bottom of the hour, former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins. He'll join us. We go through our 5-star picks of the week every week with Tony. Following him, we'll get a return visit from Atlanta Braves and Fox Sports announcer Chip Caray. So very excited to have Chip back on the show. And amongst other things, we'll get his emotions when he was up in Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series. And we all know about, his father, or grandfather, I should say, Harry Caray, who broadcasted, for the Cubs for all those years. And what you may not know is that in 1998, they hired Chip to join his grandfather in the booth, but unfortunately we lost Harry in April of '98, so it robbed us of the chance to have both of them in the booth. Chip would go on to partner with Steve Stone for 7 years with the Cubs, but we'll talk about the World Series. We'll get Chip's thoughts and insights when he joins us a little bit later in this hour. We'll kick off hour number 2 with TNT Hall of Famer and NFL stats guru Russell Baxter. Look forward to always learn so much when Russell comes and joins us on the show. And then we'll round out the show with a guy who, always brings a lot of energy and a lot of passion to his segments, and that's former University of Georgia, Miami Dolphins, Rams, and Chargers tight end Randy McMichael. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight, folks. So please sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. But let's kick things off by bringing in my co-host, Mr. bob-lazzari. Bob, how are you tonight, my friend?
I'm okay, Chris. Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Off last week, off because I was off getting married. So life is very good, my friend. So yes, that's very happy. My wife Kelly and I we're celebrating our 5-day anniversary today. It's been a wonderful 5 days, a whirlwind of activities, but it's been fantastic. So glad to be back here on the show. And Bob, since it's been a couple of weeks, let's go around the league a little bit. Let's get caught back up. Talk about some of the exciting things that we're seeing going on right now. And Bob, first of all, Cowboys, unbelievable and painful loss by my Steelers to the Cowboys, last Sunday. But the Cowboys got a league best 8-1 record right now. They've scored the third most points in the league, 258. They have the best point differential, having scored 88 more than they've given up. Bob, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, is it really time for us to admit that the Cowboys are the best team in the league?
They have to be. They're definitely in the equation, Chris. It's kind of a no-brainer, and it's amazing that they've done it the way they have, because you're talking with if you try to speculate this on paper in the off season, if you would do it with a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back, some controversy in the quarterback position, a guy like Des Bryant being out for an extended period of time, you'd say, my goodness, if they go 4-5, you'd be very happy probably in the first 9. But this is amazingly, and also, Chris, they've won 8 in a row after losing that first one. If you had said this team would win 8 in a row, everything you talk about the Cowboys is just remarkable so far. And as far as them being good, Chris, like you said, they're at the top in points scored. And they're up there on defense. You know, the defense doesn't get as much credit as it does. But if you've seen Elliott run over these last few weeks, and people that I've talked have said the same thing, he's kind of a freak where you can be 220 pounds and run like he does. And as a rookie, I mean, he's still learning the position as far as how to run in the NFL. But it's over 1,000 yards, Chris, which is outrageous after 9 games. As you remember, a 14-game season running for 1,000 yards was something. But what this guy is doing is just unbelievable. And I think he's made a believer out of me and a lot of other people. And Prescott, to his credit, both him and Romo have handled the so-called controversy very well. This is a guy completing 67% of his passes. And the big thing is, and we always mention this, Chris, it always comes down to lack of making mistakes. And he does not make mistakes. He's only thrown 2 picks. And that will win you a lot of football games when you got a 1,000-yard rusher and you got some weapons like Des Bryant and, of course, Jason Witten. So they're fun to watch again. And whether you like America's team or not, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be on TV. They're always going to be on the news. And they are fun to watch again.
And, Bob, as you talk about, the controversy, at quarterback between Romo and Prescott and how well both men really are handling that situation, and Romo now he's ready to come back. He's going to serve as the primary backup to Dak Prescott this weekend. And really to the Cowboys' credit as well, they're clearly doing the right thing. And we've talked about this for weeks, by keeping Prescott in as the starting quarterback. But, if you look at Romo, Bob, he's got 3 more years left on his contract. His base salary is going to be $14 million next year, $19.5 million in 2018 and $20.5 million in 2019. And we all know, with football contracts, you never really see the last couple of years of those contracts. But, really when you start looking at the cap hit, Bob, $5 million of his signing bonus and $5.7 million of his contract was, restructured not all that long ago. So both of those things are going to count against the cap next year. So his total cap hit in 2017 is going to be $24.7 million, 19.6 of which is going to be dead cap money if they decided to, release him. If you look, beyond that, $8.9 million will count as dead cap money in 2018 and only $3.2 in 2019. So, Bob, releasing him would be very expensive next year against their cap. Now, you would think for Prescott's sake, though, you can't have Tony Romo sitting there for another year or two, having Prescott having to look over his shoulder all the time at Tony Romo. But you got to figure out, what do you do with him? You would, as I say, he's expensive to release, but he's going to be expensive to trade because when you trade the contract goes with him. So, you would think that the only places that, he becomes attractive to at that price tag, again, over $24 million, has got to be to someone who believes they are only a, quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl. It's not like, I can't imagine Tony Romo ends up in Cleveland next year at $24 million. Your thoughts on what happens with Romo?
I think you explained it terrifically, Chris. There is only a couple of places he could end up. Number one, we do not, I think as NFL fans and Cowboy fans especially, wouldn't want any kind of controversy next year going through this all over again. They've handled it incredibly well, and again, to have done what they've done, they're doing so well. I think it became a no-brainer at the end that they cannot disturb the chemistry. And even though it's been reported that Romo had asked to compete for his job back. But, again, this guy is going to be 37 years old next year, Chris. And whoever would acquire him, like you said, they have to have the win-now mentality. Whether or not this guy can play another couple of years, we've seen some tough injuries these last couple of years from him. Whoever he'd be traded to would be taking a shot. But they'd have to be, like you said, just a player or two away. And so he'd be like a hired hand to try to win a championship. But, it's a tough situation all around. This is what happens when you start throwing $20 million around like it's water, It's crazy. But that's where it's at right now. They are in a tough position, And it's always great to have a very good backup quarterback because we know how tough a league this is. But when it comes to that much money, something needs to be done. I don't expect him on Dallas's roster next year.
Yeah, you got to wonder, if maybe a team like Denver, right, might take a shot at Romo for a year or two, sort of doing the Peyton Manning thing all over again this time.
Yep.
With Tony Romo. Obviously they've got two young quarterbacks already on that roster, but they probably are, a star quarterback away from, getting back to a Super Bowl. Maybe a team like Kansas City, Bob. You remember all those years ago that they brought in Joe Montana? You got to wonder if Tony Romo could be a quarterback that could really help them open up that offense, or, where else he would fit. Boy, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there are that many teams that are that are just like a star quarterback away. I mean, every team needs a star quarterback, and it makes every team better. But, are they just that one little piece away? You might think a team like Houston, but boy, all the money they've already got socked into Brock Osweiler, sort of makes, any other quarterback coming in there prohibitive. But, it's going to be interesting to see once this season, is over and we start getting into when sign-on bonuses and all those other things start coming due in the league's new year, what happens with Tony Romo. But I can't believe, I'm with you, Bob. I can't believe he's a Dallas Cowboy, come March or April of next year.
Yeah, just a tough situation for him.
Let's move over to the Rams, Bob, as we see now number one overall pick Jared Goff is going to get his first career start this weekend. The Rams, Bob, you look at their offense, dead last in scoring. They're averaging only 15 points a game. They've scored 10 or fewer points in 5 of their 9 games so far this season. They're a team that's 4-5. Do you think this move, Bob, is it more about, is it time for a change? Right? You would think it's time for a change, some sort of spark for the Rams offense. Got a heck of a defense, but a spark for the Rams offense. Case Keenum is just not a guy that's going to be able to lead them to too many points. Obviously, he hasn't so far this year. But is this a spark move for the Rams offense, or do you think this is Jeff Fisher starting to feel a little bit of the heat as he's starting to look down, at a 6th straight, sub 500 season, since he's gone over there and joined the Rams?
I think it's both, Chris. Not to cop out, but it's both. I mean, Keenum, 9 games, 9 touchdown passes. That's not burning up the league. Has thrown more picks than touchdown passes. That's not good. And, it does factor in. People I've talked to have said Fisher, it wasn't a question of he may be fired after the year. It was almost a week-to-week thing with him, the way things were going. Being in the new city and everything, a lot of excitement, and the team was just in neutral. They just can't get things going. Guys like Gurley, and it hasn't been pretty, Chris. So, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. A lot of these top draft choices, Chris, have been getting their feet wet. Maybe taking more of a beating than they should, but that's the way of the league now. And, again, you're not going to win with Case Keenum going. So what does he have to lose? To me, it's such a no-brainer. And, again, the big controversy was why Goff hasn't been playing up till now. So, Fisher, the guy's been playing an awful long time. His record, he's supposedly a defensive guru, Chris, but in the long run, he hasn't really been a very successful head coach in this league. So I think he almost knows this might be his last shot. So what does he have to lose?
Yeah, no, and I agree 100% with that, Bob. I do. I think, Fisher is looking at, at 4-5, they're unfortunate to be 4-5 with how few points they've scored. So really squandering what a great defense that they've built there now in Los Angeles. So, he's got to do something. I agree with you. I think you got to, don't pay attention to the record over here. Look over here. We got this new rookie quarterback. Look at him. Pay attention to that, right? So that, again, if they lose, and they end up, 7 or 9 or worse, and it looks like it's going to be worse, that he's got to wonder, what's his next move, because I can't imagine with another losing season, and I think they re-upped him a couple of years ago on the contract, but, that doesn't make a lot of difference with head coaches teams seem to be willing to suck up that money and move on. I just can't imagine he's got too many years left, if anything more beyond this, with a 5-11, 6-10, ball club. So it'll be interesting to see how Goff does this weekend. I look forward to watching and see what he can do with that offense.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, lastly, the Browns 0-10 and well on their way to getting the number one pick again in the draft. And Bob, if you go all the way back to the year 2000, here are the quarterbacks that the Browns have drafted: Spurgeon Wynn, Luke McCown, Charlie Fry, Brady Quinn, Colt McCoy, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, and Cody Kessler last year. And, Bob, so 8 quarterbacks drafted now. This isn't the free agents, the RG3s and the other guys that they have brought in via free agency. And we all know how many, at one point, wrapping around from last year to the beginning of this, they started 5 different quarterbacks in 5 consecutive games. But from a draft pick perspective, 8 quarterbacks in 17 years. So on average, one out of every other year. And, oh, by the way, 3 of those guys they drafted in the first round, 2 of them in the last 5 years. So, Bob, looking ahead to the draft next April, do you think the Browns go 3 for 6, 3 first-round quarterbacks in the last 6 years?
What a nightmare. Coach Hue Jackson is running to here, Chris. This is, when you first asked me that question, I'm saying to myself, my goodness, it's almost like a curse. If they go to the podium and pick another quarterback, it's like they're going to get that Chicago Cubs mentality that people had for years, that this just can't happen, no matter how hard we try, no matter what we do. But where do you start, Chris? They have guys like Crowell, who's a good running back, and they have a little bit of talent. They're guys that can catch the ball, but I don't know where you go in the draft. I mean, the quarterbacks that are out there, what immediately comes to mind is you got a few guys. The kid from Notre Dame has been highly touted. You have a few others that I don't know if they are franchise changers like some of these other guys over the past couple of years. The guy Watson from Clemson, highly touted as a junior, but I just don't see these guys fitting well in Cleveland. Do I see anyone fitting well in Cleveland? No. So what does that tell you? Maybe they should be looking the trade. I'm not saying a Tony Romo because that's just a different type of story, but I pity the general manager. What he has to do there is kind of clean house after they've been trying to clean it on the fly here, and with a newer head coach all thrown in the equation. It is such a nightmare, Chris. I don't think just drafting a quarterback is going to – you have to tear that franchise down. And I don't know where you start. RG3, you and I think, are on the same page with him. I think we would have known by now if this guy was a franchise changer. The answer is no. And the guys that they've kind of brought in here, the names you mentioned, like Kessler, et cetera, they're just not great quarterbacks, and you need a great quarterback in this league to compete. So I don't know. I'm at a total loss. I cannot answer your question. Should they need to draft every position, Chris. So I don't know. Where do you start?
All right.
0-10 is 0-10, right?
Right. We'll get Andra Davis's take on this here in just a few minutes. Andre will be joining us here in just a minute. So, yeah, it's a good question. It'll be interesting to see which direction they go. All right, everyone, like we do here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, we want to send out a big thank you to our military personnel listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We cannot thank you enough for doing what you do every day to protect all of us in our way of life. For everyone else listening in on your station or app of choice, we appreciate you so very much, and we hope you'll join us in thanking our brave men and women that are serving in our military. If you happen to see, one of our servicemen or women in your daily life, whether it's at the grocery store, in an airport, in a restaurant, wherever you might be when you're out and about, please stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our true heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your service and your sacrifices that you and your families have made for us over the years. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and all the great folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It is such an honor for us to have Thursday Night Tailgate as a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. TNT is, sponsored by Kyvan Foods, and folks, NFL star Reggie Kelly brings the authentic flavor of traditional Southern cooking to market with his Kyvan food products. Made with the finest ingredients, Kyvan Foods encourages you to appreciate the goodness of the exceptional flavor of their salsas, sauces, apple butter, and all their other fine products. Many of Kaiven products are all natural, and the taste is unbeatable. Kaiven items are terrific for holiday parties, for gifts. You can order them online. You can go to either Amazon.com or you can go to Kaiven's website, Kaiven82.com. And Kaiven, again, is spelled K-Y-V-A-N to order your product. Great stuff from Reggie Kelly, who's also a Thursday Night Tailgate Hall of Famer. Love Reggie and his family, his wife Sheila. They do great stuff. They make great products. Check it out online. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. Folks, if you're an athlete or a weekend warrior and you're dealing with injuries or discomfort, whether it's in your knees, your shoulders, your hips, or other joints, please don't just live with it. Do what other athletes do to get relief, and that's contact Dr. Peter Candelora. He can get you back to enjoying life. For more information or to schedule a consultation, visit them online at athleteinjuries.com. Again, athleteinjuries.com. Baseball season, it's over now, right? We got to celebrate the Cubs winning the World Series for the first time in 108 years. We'll talk to Chip Caray more about that a little bit later on in this hour. But folks, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory is such a wonderful place. If you're jonesing for the game, right, you're already looking forward to when pitchers and catchers show up. Well, please, go check out the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. They were inducted into the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence Hall of Fame. The museum is a very cool experience for everybody in the family because you get to walk their live production line and see some of the 1.5 million bats that they make every year. They still have the Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit, which has some, bizarre baseball treasures there. Don't miss the bat vault. You hear me bragging about that thing every single week here on TNT. You get the whole game-used bats from so many of the game's greatest legends, guys like Hank Williams and Ted Williams, my hero growing up, Willie Stargell. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. All right, now back with us and making his 5th appearance on the Kaiven Foods guest line is Andra Davis. Let me remind you about Andre's background. He's from Live Oak, Florida, which is up near the Florida-Georgia border. Played his college ball at the University of Florida, where as a senior he was a team captain and named first-team All-SEC and second-team All-American. He was a 5th-round draft pick in 2002 by the Cleveland Browns, and he played in the NFL from 2002 to 2011 with the Browns, Broncos, and Bills. In 2011, his Buffalo Bills teammates awarded him the Ed Block Courage Award for being a role model of inspiration, sportsmanship, and courage. Over his NFL career, he played in 143 games, had 12 sacks, 9 interceptions, forced 5 fumbles, and had 786 tackles. After his playing days were over, he went back to school, completed his undergraduate degree. And though he started out at the University of Florida, he completed his degree at UNLV, went on to get his MBA at George Washington University, and on top of all of that, he's one of the great guys that we've had the privilege of meeting here and having be a part of Thursday Night Tailgate. We're very excited he's back with us again tonight. Hey, Andre, Chris, and Bob here. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, man. How you guys doing? What's up, Bob? What's up, Chris? How you guys doing?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Andre. So
man,
catch us up,
great.
Andre.
That's
What's
great.
been going on with you, my friend?
Honestly, just been trying to take care of my body. People ask me what I do these days, and I say just take care of my body is a full-time job. And when I'm not doing that, I'm running around with my 3 girls. I joke around with them and say I need to have a Uber. I need to have Uber on top of my car because I just drive them around to all their practice, to all their games and stuff. So that's really what I'm doing right now. I go to rehab 3 or 4 days a week. Do this thing called crowd therapy. I get 2 massages a week. I go to the chiropractor twice a week. It's just nonstop with my body. My body hurts so bad right now, but it's just what I signed up for, and I enjoy my time playing, but it's got to pay the price now.
So, Andre, I wanted to start off our time with you tonight really by getting your thoughts about your alma mater, the University of Florida. Take you back there, and you look at your Gators. They're 7-2 this season, currently ranked 23rd in the playoff rankings. They've got LSU and Florida State still left on their regular season schedule. How do you feel about where the Gators are at and the job that Jim McElwain is doing so far?
I think Coach Jim is doing an excellent job. 7-2 record sounds pretty good, but when you lose the 2 games, like we lost those 2 games, I mean that was terrible. To have that big of a lead up on Tennessee, and for them to come back and beat us the way they did, and then for us to go to Arkansas and just completely lay an egg like that, that was the most disappointing loss of the season to me. I mean, because you know that they were going to come out and give their best after getting beat by Auburn 56-3. So we know that we're going to get their best, and for us just to go play right into their hands and to not come out and compete, like that was disheartening. And for us to go from I think it was ranked like 12 at the time to not ranked, it was deserving. We shouldn't have been ranked. Like we really stunk it up. It's really hard to complain about a 7-2 season. We got 2 tough games left, and especially this week with all the starters out on defense, it's going to be very, very tough going against that running attack of LSU and playing at LSU. That's going to be tough, and Florida State game always tough. But it's been worse in the past. So like I said, it's hard to complain about 7-2. But I mean, we've been having some ugly wins and some definitely terrible losses. So I'll take 7-2 rather than doggone 4-7 right now.
And Andre, if the Gators were to win the SEC East, what do you think? How do you feel about the chances of going up against Alabama in the SEC championship? Do you think they got an opportunity to upset Alabama?
I think if our defense is healthy, I think we can play with anybody. But I was talking to one of my friends earlier, DJ Williams, who now he do the college scouting and he report on the college stuff. And he was telling me that we got 9 defensive starters that's out. And, any team if Alabama has 9 defensive starters out, I don't think that they're going to win. So guys are starters for a reason, and they're playing at a high level. But if we get there and all starters are healthy, I like our chances. I definitely like our chances. Alabama is a powerhouse. I mean, they have been consistent for the last 7 to 10 years. There's no, discrediting what they do, but any given Saturday, you go out there and you strap up and you put your helmet on them just like they're gonna put their helmet on you. And the best man, last man standing, you typically wins. But you can't show no fear, and I know we won't show no fear when we play them. Like even last year when we played them, our defense did pretty good. We just couldn't score no points.
Bob, questions for Andre?
Andre, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And
yes, sir, Mr. Bob.
Yeah, it's great to speak with you. And I was looking at your rookie season this afternoon, and the Butch Davis era in Cleveland, Andre, wasn't. It won't go down in history as being a great one. But that rookie season you had, that was a playoff team, and they played very competitively in the playoffs, etc. I was looking at the other coaches on that staff. And I think when I had talked to it about...
A bunch of them a lot head coaches now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you and I had talked about Coach Fazio before, and and guys like Bowles and Pagano and Robisky went on to do a lot in the NFL.
And Bruce Arians in Arizona.
Yeah, it's so. My question is basically, I mean, you probably came out of Florida and thought, my goodness, I know a lot about football, but you probably learned an awful lot. How big of a learning experience was that rookie year in the NFL?
I really have to give a lot of credit to the coaches that we had at Florida. Steve Spurrier, obviously, he taught us a lot about football. Especially, he taught us defensive players a lot about offenses. He used to always tell us, what their strategy, what the offense was trying to do to us. Sit somebody in front of us so they can throw the dig behind us. Concepts of the game. Also, shots, when teams like to take shots and why. He just didn't tell us what they did, but he used to tell us, why in certain situations offenses like to take advantage of guys. So for us, if the offense go out there and turn the ball over, defense upset, they're mad, and especially if they're losing this bad season, they're complaining, and then, they got their head down, so now we're going to take a shot. So he used to explain to us the reasoning behind what they were trying to do. But then we also had Bob Stoops, a great defensive-minded coach. He was there. And then we had John Hoke, my last year that I was a starter. And these guys were very, very fundamental, and these guys knew a lot about football, and they taught us a lot. But when I got to Cleveland, I learned a lot, a whole lot more, because it was more about the matchup each and every week. When you get into the NFL, well, in college, if you're a powerhouse type program, you're going to win 9, 10 games every year. You're going to win those. But then when you get to the league, you're busting your behind just to get one every week, and it's so hard. So it's a lot more details in the NFL game than it is college game, because, like I said, in college, you have the best athletes. Like the bigger schools, you typically recruit the best athletes, and just on athletic alone, you're going to go out there and you're going to get the job done.
And what stands out to me, Andre, over your career, and it's funny in a way. Here you are from Florida. You get drafted. You play 10 years in the league in Cleveland, Denver, and Buffalo. Not exactly, right? Not exactly places that people sunbathe in the winter. But was that a big adjustment for you? And what did you prefer playing in? Was it a welcome respite from the heat for you?
No, I love the heat. I really do. I love the heat. And being in Florida, we used to practice at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., and we used to always schedule the tougher games like the Tennessees and those guys at 3:30, because we were used to the heat, but they wasn't. But when I got to Cleveland, it was definitely a transition. It was a different experience, something I'd never experienced before, playing in cold. When I was in college, even in high school, 50 degrees was the coldest game I ever played in. And then when I got to Cleveland, you would pray for a 50-degree temperature game.
Yeah.
So it was
talking
but it was fun.
We're talking to former Broncos, Bills, and Browns linebacker Andra Davis here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And Andre, like Bob was just saying, you spent the first 7 years of your career in Cleveland, and boy, that is just an organization that continues to struggle. And it's interesting to me, Andre. We've had some of the great Steelers from back in the 70s in the glory years. Andy Russell shared a story with us about when Chuck Noll first took over as head coach of the Steelers, and after one of the first practices, he pulled the team aside and he told them that he had figured out why they weren't winning any games. He told them it's because they, as players, weren't any good, and he was going to have to get rid of most of them, in order to win, which he ended up doing, which seems very similar to me, Andre, when we look at, poor Hue Jackson taking over this Browns roster, that he's got a roster full of guys that just really aren't very good. Do you think that the Browns are going to be patient enough with him as an organization to give him, 4 or 5 years, like Bob talked about at the top of the show? He's really going to have to really start all over, and build his team. Are teams going to be patient enough to allow him to have that much time to, rebuild an entire organization?
I doubt it. I truly doubt it. I called in when Mr. Bob was talking about the Browns, and I 100% agree with everything that he said. I truly don't believe that drafting a quarterback number one overall is going to change the face of the organization. Like when you're in a situation like this right here, starting 0-10 and a new coach, you have to kind of solidify the foundation. You got to try to figure out what you want your foundation to be, because we never know if the number one pick is going to be a franchise player or not. I mean, you got situations where, just take for instance Dallas. They stumble upon a guy that they took in the 4th round, but the offensive line is the best in the league. So you put a guy that you take in the 4th behind the best offensive line in the league, and you got a rookie running back, and you see what those guys are doing. So I really think you have to build a foundation, and I hope that they be patient enough to give Hue, 4 or 5 years. But the way the trend is, I doubt it. Most coaches get 3 years, especially if they lose constantly for 3 years. It's unfortunate, but I don't think they will be patient enough. I really don't.
Andre, before we let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with the things you're doing and follow you over social media.
I got off Facebook, so the only social media that I'm pretty much on right now is Instagram, and it's All Roads Open. And I think the Twitter page is maybe All Roads Open 54.
That's right.
Get in there. But I think it is. But like I said, I be so busy trying to take care of my body and also with my kids. I really don't have a lot of time to be on social media too much.
Andre, it's always such a pleasure for Bob and I to get to spend some time with you. You're someone who's very important
anytime, man.
to us.
Anytime. I love chatting with you guys, man. You guys are very, very knowledgeable, and like I said, I respect y'all opinions and y'all views on football. And, I agree with a lot of the things that you guys talk about.
Wow, we appreciate that very much, Andre. We look forward. Hopefully we get to have you come back again real soon. In between now and then,
anytime.
All the best to you and your family, Andre.
Anytime, man. God bless you guys and have a happy holidays.
You take care.
Take care, Andre.
All right.
That is former Browns, Broncos, and Bills linebacker Andra Davis, and so much stuff, Bob, that I'd like to spend some more time with Andre about, but and talking about the aches and pains and the things that he's been dealing with, kind of post his playing career. But what a wonderful guy! What a great player.
Yeah, and he's been kind enough to appear on the TV side up here, Chris. And when you play with three storied franchises like he did, there's an awful lot to speak with. And he was one of those Ironmen, never missed a game. So it's always a pleasure speaking with him. And I hope he's in the sauna as we speak right now.
That's right. All right, we've got our next guest, Tony Collins, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Tony on the other side of this station identification.
Hello, everybody. Van Earl Wright here, reminding you that you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with the dynamic duo of Chris Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari, right here on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins to go through our 5-star picks of the week. Hey, Tony, how are you tonight?
Hi, Tony.
I'm doing fantastic. How you guys doing?
Oh, really well. Thank you, Tony. So, Tony, the last time we were together was back in week 9, and and I know all you care about is how are we doing with our picks. So, kind of going back to that week, Bob and I finished 3-2.
I didn't do too well.
You did not. Bob and I were 3-2, and unfortunately, you were 2-3. So, if you recap what those picks were, Bob and I correctly had the Falcons over the Bucs, but you took Tampa Bay. I was the only one who picked the Ravens over the Steelers. Bob was the only one who correctly picked the Giants over the Eagles, and then you and Bob had the Raiders over the Broncos. I had Denver. So, and then you and we had the Lions over the Vikings, and Bob took Minnesota. So 3-2, Bob and I, 2-3 for you. So far now over the course of the season, Tony, you and I are tied at 21-13-1, and Bob is one game back at 20-14-1. So still, of course, anybody's game so far to this point in the season.
That's why I like it. Look, nice and tight.
There you go. Well,
all right, so let's get into our picks for this week. We're going to start off with the 5-4 Ravens going to the 8-1 Cowboys. The Cowboys are a 7.5-point home favorite. The over/under is 45. Tony, any chance do you think that the Ravens defense can step up and end the Cowboys' 8-game winning streak?
Okay, Ravens, they have a great defense. They've done well this year, but man, Cowboys are hot, man. I was watching them playing the Steelers last week, and just at one point you thought maybe Pittsburgh can pull it out, and then it's just their running back, their quarterback, their tight end, the receiver, and that offensive line is just so dynamic, man. I got to go with the Cowboys. I just seeing Dak just throwing the ball well again, and Zeke running the ball well again. So I'm going with the Cowboys, 37-24.
All right. Bob, what do you think?
I agree with Tony, Chris. I don't see a team going into Dallas where they're at right now and beating them, especially a team like the Ravens that's not that talented offensive-wise. They may hang a bit with their defense, but Elliott is just every week he's getting better. It's almost scary. Yeah, I continue to agree with Tony on this one. They're going to win their 9th in a row. I'm going to say they'll put up 30 points again. They'll win 30-20.
All right. Well, guys, and like I said a moment ago, Ravens defense, boy, they are playing just as well as, as they always do. They're number 1 in average yards allowed, number 1 against the run, 5th against the pass, tied for 3rd in average points allowed. So it should be a fun matchup to watch. They're sort of front 7 going against the Cowboys offensive line and seeing what they can do against, Ezekiel Elliott. But, guess what, guys? And Bob, you alluded to this at the top of the show. Dallas defense, not that bad, fellas. 8th in points allowed, 3rd against the run, so they're playing pretty well. You can pass on them, right? They're 21st against the pass. So, but the good news for Cowboy fans is, the Ravens have, Joe Flacco as their quarterback, so he's sure to throw 1 or 2 over to someone in a Cowboys uniform. 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for Flacco on the year. He's the 29th rated quarterback, 31st in yards per attempt. So, you stop the screen pass, stop the short dump-offs, and you're going to beat the Ravens, who are 24th in scoring offense. So I'm with you guys. I'm betting Dallas does it again. I think they'll edge it out. I think it'll be a closer game. Both defenses playing well. But I like the Cowboys a little lower scoring than what you guys have it. I think the Cowboys win this game 20-17. Our second game this week, Tony, we got the 4-4-1 Cardinals going to the free-falling 5-4 Vikings. It's a pick'em game. The over-under is 40. Tony, can the Vikings regroup and end their 4-game losing streak?
Watching the Arizona Cardinals last week against the 49ers, man, they almost just gave that game away. I'm just doubting Palmer as a quarterback and just some of his decisions that he's been making. Cardinals got a great defense, of course. Boy, it's a tough one. I'm gonna flip the coin.
It's the Tony flip a coin special.
That is.
I'm gonna flip the coin. Heads Cardinals, tails Vikings. Here we go. It's heads Cardinals. I have no idea. I have no idea what the score is gonna be. let's say 17 to 10.
17, a low scoring game. All right. Bob, what do you got?
Well, Tony, you'll like the fact that I flipped the coin before the show on this one already, and it came up Arizona too. So I'm going Arizona. The only argument I can make, they score more than Minnesota, but these are two highly touted teams at the beginning of the year, especially Arizona. That was our Super Bowl team, Chris. Minnesota got off to that incredible start with the defense has just kind of floundered. It's tough for me to think that Arizona after this week would be under 500 after 10 games. So Arizona. How about 24-20?
All right. Guys, like I mentioned, right, the Vikings, they've lost 4 in a row. They started the season 5-0. Now they're 5-4. They are the worst rushing offense in the league. They're averaging under 70 yards a game. Their passing attack isn't that much better either. They're 23rd in passing, 26th in average points scored per game. Their defense, right, defense certainly wins championships. You hear me talk about that all the time. But at some point, you got to score some points. Right? You got to help the defense out, get them off the field, and the Vikings just aren't doing it. During their last 4 games, right, the 4-game losing streak, they're averaging 14 points a game, and, that's just not going to get it done. They're playing a Cardinals defense that's 2nd in yards allowed, 2nd against the pass, tied for 3rd in points allowed, so a very good Cardinals defense, which means that, they won't score enough to win this week, fellas. So I'm with you as well. I'm taking the Cardinals too. I think it's going to be a little bit, kind of mixing and matching both of your scores. I like the Cardinals 27-14. We've got our next guest, Chip Caray, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Chip in just a minute. We got a couple of more games to get through. Our third game this week is the 5-4 Eagles going to the 6-2-1 Seahawks. The Seahawks are a 7-point home favorite. The over-under is 44. Tony, any chance that rookie quarterback Carson Wentz is going to be able to go into Seattle and deliver an Eagles win?
Not a chance in the world. Man, Seattle beat my Patriots last week, and I'm kind of upset about that, but Seattle's defense is good. Quarterback's playing good now. Man, I tell you, Seattle's defense is just too good. They're gonna put a lot of pressure on the rookie quarterback, and I just don't see Philadelphia going out to Seattle and winning that game. And I think Seattle is gonna win. They're gonna win big, 37-10.
37-10. There's the Tony Collins blowout special.
That's the blowout.
Bob, what do you think?
I can't bet against Seattle at home. They haven't lost there yet, and Philly is not a good road team, guys. This is kind of a no-brainer. Wentz will go out there and get his NFL baptism against an incredible defense. Yeah, I'm going to go with Tony as far as kind of a blowout. It's going to be how about 30-13, Seattle?
30-13. Wow, 2 blowout specials here now. Well, it's clear that Carson Wentz has, cooled off after his hot start. He's, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions over his last, 5 games, or 2 and 3 over that stretch. So, struggling a little bit there. The Eagles defense did a good job last week, holding off the league's best offense in the Falcons. Only gave them 15 points, but 3 of their 4 games prior to that were losses in the division, and they gave up 27, 28, and 29 points respectively to the Redskins, Giants, and Cowboys. So Seattle, on the other hand, guys, we all know what a great defense they have, and to your point, Tony, they put it to your Patriots last week. Huge road win up in Foxborough, but even more encouraging if you're a Seahawks fan is the 31 points they've scored. Each of the last 2 weeks. Their offense is, sort of finding itself. Russell Wilson seems like he's getting healthier, threw for 348 yards, 3 touchdowns last week. So I'm with you guys. I think they remain hot. I think they win a 3rd game in a row. I like it a little closer. Seattle 27-20. Tony, our next game is the 4-5 Packers going to the 5-3-1 Redskins. The Redskins are a 2.5-point home favorite. The over/under is 50.5. So who do you like here, Tony?
Man, I tell you, I would never think, or anybody, I don't think anybody would ever think that Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, will be in the pickle that they're in right now. But man, they're not playing good football at all. Their offensive line, I just flat out say they're terrible. They have no running game. Aaron is just, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. He just don't have time to throw the ball. And so Redskins playing good football, man. I mean, I just seeing the Redskins pulling it out with a tight game though. 27-24 Redskins field goal to win by field goal.
All right, 27-24. Bob, what do you think?
Usually I never bet against Green Bay, Chris, but I'm starting to change that. It's been getting awful this year. It's been getting uglier. They've given up 234 points. That's more than they've scored, which is mind-boggling. This team, many picked them to go at least to the championship game, but it's not been pretty, and I'm going to go against them this week. They're on the road. They're not a good road team. I think Tony's right on. I'm going to say it's a field goal game, 24-21 Washington.
All right. So, guys, it's sort of like what you guys have talked about, right? I can't figure the Packers out, right? They've lost 3 in a row. They've given up 111 points in those 3 losses, 47 last week to the Titans, which is the most the Titans have scored in a game since 2009, which coincidentally was a 47-7 win over the Rams. And our friend Randy McMichael, who's going to join us later tonight, Randy scored the lone touchdown for the Rams in that game. But, anyway, the Packers are struggling. They don't have a running game this season. Eddie Lacy's out, which is a shame for the Packers, on many levels because, first of all, the Redskins are susceptible to the run, giving up 115 yards per game. And, the Redskins defense 15th against the pass. The Packers are 16th against the pass. So, that being equal, you would think, well, which quarterback do you like better, right? Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins? And before you answer too quickly, Kirk Cousins is the 14th rated passer in the league. Rodgers is 15th. Cousins has a better completion percentage, is averaging better than a yard more per attempt. He's averaging 302 yards per game passing. Rodgers only 268. Packers are a -4 in the giveaway takeaway ratio, and the game is in Washington. So, all of that being said, fellas, I'm with you guys. I figured someone would take the Packers, but I'm with you guys. I'm taking Washington. I like them 27-24. Same score that you have, Tony. So you and I right on the same page. Our last game this week, fellas. 6-3 Texans going to the 7-2 Raiders, sort of. The game is played in Mexico City on Monday night. The Raiders are a 5.5-point favorite. The over-under is 46. So, Tony, who do you like here?
Are they the Oakland Raiders or the L.A. Raiders? Which one is it now?
Oakland
I think they're still in Oakland. They might be the Las Vegas Raiders here in a minute. But they're still in Oakland.
Oakland playing good football, man. They got a good quarterback. They got great receivers. They got a good running back as well. Good pass rusher. Oakland, man. They got a chance to do some damage and get deep into the playoffs, I believe. So I'm going with Oakland. They're playing the Houston Texans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are playing the Houston Texans. The 6-3 Texans.
Can't score. Houston can't score, man. Their quarterback is shaky, and they have no offense. I mean, their defense is okay. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be close either. I think as long as they don't go down to Mexico City and drink too much of the water, Oakland's going to be fine. And they'll beat them 27-7.
Another blowout. 2 blowout specials this week from Tony Collins. Bob, what do you think?
I like Oakland too, Chris. Houston, it's amazing to me that you can have a 6-3 team that's given up 28 more points than they've scored. They haven't lost at home, but guess what? They're not at home, and they just can't score with a team like Oakland, and I think that's what it basically comes down to. They're just not going to do well. It's like a road team for both teams. And in that case, Oakland is 5-0 on the road. So again, Oakland. How about 30-24 Oakland?
All right, fellas. Well, I'm with you. I like Oakland. There's a lot of reasons I like Oakland. One we'll talk about with Russell Baxter here in just a little bit. But, Khalil Mack, who started off the season slow, 6 sacks in his last 4 games now. Defense is playing much better. I like Derek Carr. I like Amari Cooper. The offense is a lot of fun to watch, and that defense is improving. So watch out for the Raiders this year. And I'm not just talking about as a threat in the AFC West. I'm talking about a threat to the Patriots in the AFC. I like them as well. I like them 30-17. So, fellas, we've all picked the same teams this week. So whatever one does, all does. So there'll be no blood next week, Tony. So when we get back together, there's not going to be a lot of wondering going on. We're all going to be the same, whether we did well or not. So
yeah.
No blood this week. Tony, before we let you go, remind our listeners about the great things you're doing to help kids go to college.
Go to my website, TonyCollinsFoundation.com or TonyCollinsProjects.com. Purchase a book. Every book that we sell goes towards helping the kid go off to college. We give out $1,500 scholarships to kids, seniors being received into any school. It doesn't have to be a major college. It could be a community college as well. So we're just trying to help as many kids as possible.
There you go. Great stuff, Tony, as always. Thanks for your time tonight, Tony. We look forward to catching up with you next week.
Absolutely. You guys have a great one. Are we doing Thanksgiving?
Actually, no, we're not doing Thanksgiving, so I guess it'll be 2 weeks from now. So happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you. Guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Load up on the turkey.
All right, take care, Tony.
All right.
Take care.
That's former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins and our 5-star picks of the week. Now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Fox Sports South broadcaster and TV voice of the Atlanta Braves, Chip Caray. Let me give you some additional background on Chip. He graduated from the University of Georgia with his degree in journalism in 1987, and he started out working on some local affiliates in Panama City, Florida, and Greensboro, North Carolina. He was a play-by-play broadcaster for the Orlando Magic from 1989 to 1996. He also worked baseball games for the Seattle Mariners from 1993 to 1995. In 1996, he broadcast the first edition of Major League Baseball on Fox. He became the voice of the Chicago Cubs along with Steve Stone from 1998 to 2004. And in 2004, he was named the Illinois Sportscaster of the Year. Also that year, he signed with TBS and Clear Channel to work with his father, Skip Caray, broadcasting games for the Atlanta Braves. You probably also heard Chip broadcasting college football games for the Big 12 and the Pac-12 on TBS, plus the University of Florida and Florida State in football and basketball for the Sunshine Network. You see and hear him now on Fox Sports doing play-by-play for the Atlanta Braves, plus some regional basketball games as well. And as great as a play-by-play guy and a broadcaster as Chip is, anytime I've tried to give him credit for how great of an announcer he is, he always brushes it aside and he tells me, Chris, it's what I do for a living. It isn't who I am. I'd much rather be known for being a good husband and a father than I am for my broadcasting work. And let me tell you, folks, Chip is a 10 times better person away from the booth than he is in it. And we all know how great he is in it. Hey, Chip, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Chip.
Hey, Chris, thanks for reading my notes I sent you. That's very kind of you.
Indeed, anytime, my friend.
That was very kind. Thanks.
So, Chip, I saw that you were in Chicago. You're around the Cubs, for their historic run to the World Series title. What was it like for you being in the city of Chicago and around the Cubs when they were going through that World Series, and obviously being there when they win it?
Well, really emotional. I mean, there's I don't want to say a small, but certainly there's an exclusive fraternity of former Cubs, be it players or executives or broadcasters. And for those of us who were there and were waiting and hoping and dreaming and thinking, God, what would it be like if the Cubs actually won the World Series? I was fortunate enough to be a very, very, very small part of that. WFLD in Chicago, the local Fox station called and asked if I would be willing to come and offer some World Series analysis. And I said, yeah. I mean, I get a free trip to the World Series and watch the Cubs play the Indians, and lo and behold, they end up winning the whole thing. It was really emotional. It was very exciting. So many people were remembering my grandfather and so many other people who were part of the Cubs lore for so long. But to actually be on that field and in the ballpark when the Cubs won the World Series was something that a lot of people have waited their whole lives for. And until you're part of the Cubs fraternity, you can't really understand it. But for the fans and for the people who are here, the people who are no longer here, and the people who've worked so long trying to see the Cubs get to the pinnacle of our sport, to be there in any capacity was a great honor, a great thrill. And I was very humbled and excited to be a very small part of it, as I said.
And and obviously, your grandfather was, such a big part of the Chicago Cubs for so many years. And I'm sure people were talking to you about it, and the statue of your grandfather there. But those memories had to come to mind thinking about your grandfather. What was it like, thinking about him?
Well, I mean, everybody, the thing that was online so much was, his speech and I guess his last broadcast when he said, as sure as God made green apples, the Cubs will get to the World Series and win it. And to go to the ballpark, I mean, I made a special trip. I went to the ballpark 6 hours before Game 3, and walked by his statue, and there they were, flowers and green apples at the base of his statue, and seeing the people taking pictures next to his statue was really heartwarming and humbling. I don't think it really hits you, and certainly my grandfather was a member of my family. Obviously, I didn't know him very well, but to see the impact that he had on that fan base was remarkable, and they got on a remarkable and magical ride and run, and it never stopped. But this wasn't about Harry Caray. This was about the Ricketts family. This was about Joe Madden and his staff and about the current Cubs players. And it was also a wonderful tribute to the people who've come before me and my grandfather. I mean, Jack Brickhouse and Jack Quinlan and Lou Boudreau and Vince Lloyd and Dwayne Statz and Tommy Brenneman and Ron Santos. So many people in that booth and with that ball club who worked so tirelessly to get the Cubs to where they are now. It really was something to see. And again, as I said, as a former Cub and someone who still has a lot of friends there and a lot of admiration for the people that are there and left on very good terms, as I said, to be there and watch that and see it unfold and what that meant for so many people was really, really, really special on a lot of different levels, both personal and professional.
Chip, something Bob and I have been talking about, during the course of this season, and certainly now that the Cubs have won the World Series, Theo Epstein has got to go down as the greatest general manager in the history of general managers, does he not? He's erased the curse of the Bambino in Boston and now the curse of the Billy Goat in Chicago.
Well, I mean, I don't want to throw on the term the greatest because there's so many guys. I mean, how do you put him above Branch Rickey, who helped integrate the game with Jackie Robinson? And I mean, we're splitting hairs, but your point, I think the greater point is to do what he's done in two places that have been, shall we say, cursed with bad luck. Yeah, there's no question about it. Theo's a visionary guy. And really the story of the Cubs situation is unique because when he came from Boston, when he interviewed for the job, he said to the Cubs ownership, I'm not coming unless you allow me to tear this down to the foundation. And in a lot of different places around professional sports, people try a Band-Aid approach. They try to patch and move a wall here and, change the carpeting and maybe paint the wall. Theo came in with a sledgehammer and a bulldozer and said, we have to rip this down and start over. And they did that. And they kind of followed a Tampa Bay Rays process in that incrementally they try to get 2 or 3% better every year. And here they are. They made great trades. They made very adroit free agent signings in the minor leagues and in Latin America. And the biggest statistic of all that when you talk about this Cubs team that won the World Series, 2 of their 25 players on their active playoff roster were on the Cubs 25-man roster when Theo Epstein took the job. So in 4 or 5 years, there was a dramatic and complete roster overhaul. There was a dramatic and hugely thorough investment in the minor leagues. And there was a great deal of turnover. And they were very, very courageous in that for a franchise that hasn't won in 100 years, Chris, they said to their fan base, give us a few more years. We're going to tell you what the plan is. There will be some tough years. We are going to put our plan in place. We're going to stick to our plan, and we'll see if it works. And in the case of the Cubs, obviously this year, it worked. And it worked in a big way, and they've created a monster. They're going to be very, very good for a very, very long period of time.
Bob, questions for Chip?
It's great to speak with you again, Chip. And as a baseball fan, after the Cubs are down 3-1, Chip, and I'm sure you felt the same, you almost can feel what it was like to have been a long-time Cubs fan. It's almost like you felt the pain, felt that this could not happen. What was your exact feelings when they're down 3-1 going on the road, Chip? Did you think it was just more of the same for these poor Cub fans?
No, I didn't. Again, I have to talk about this through the prism of working for the Braves. I don't work for the Cubs anymore, and I was watching from afar. But I think the key that people need to remember is they were down 3-1 to the Dodgers, and they figured it out. They beat Clayton Kershaw, and they came back and won that series. They had been battle-tested by then. I think the huge advantage the Cubs had was getting Kyle Schwarber back. If ever there was a year when the Cubs did not want to have home field advantage, this was it, because they could plug him in the lineup and use him 4 times in the American League ballparks. And there was never any panic. The Cubs felt very confident. They were very loose. They just didn't play particularly well in the first 4 games. But as we know, when you're the team that's ahead and you have home field advantage and all that pressure and expectation swings to your side of the pendulum, the pressure's on you. You've got to win one game. And Dusty Baker has said so many times the most difficult thing in sports is to take away the last breath of an opponent in a playoff series, and the Indians couldn't do it. That's taking nothing away from Tito Francona and his staff. That they got as far as they did with a pitching staff that was injury-riddled as they were is really, really remarkable. I mean, if there was ever a World Series where you hated to see a franchise lose, the 91 World Series between the Braves and Twins is one. The 2016 series between the Cubs and Indians would be another. It was just magnificently played. 2 great managers, 2 proud franchises. The Cubs just found a way to get it done in extra innings in Game 7, and it'll go down as one of the best World Series ever played.
Yeah, it was great to watch. And as far as the current state of the Atlanta Braves, Chip, incredibly tough year again. It's remarkable to me that they did not have a pitcher in double digits in wins. And, of course, they're being proactive, going out and getting guys like Colon, even though many people are saying that these guys are too old that they're getting, but they're being a little proactive, Chip. But, of course, you have other concerns. Freddie Freeman, another great year, but there's a lack of power on that team. What's their next move, do you think, Chip? Where will they concentrate on things before they go into the new ballpark?
Pitching, and more pitching. I think the problem was pitching. We used 16 different starters. As you said, nobody won more than 9 games. I think those 16 pitchers combined for 35 wins. collectively in 2016. Bartolo Colon and R.A. Dickey are not looked at as long-term pieces. They were signed for a combined, I think, $21 million, and in this day and age, to get two pitchers who can take the ball every fifth day for you at that rate is a bargain. And if the Braves struggle again, those are two guys that, if they're pitching reasonably well, could be dealt for more prospects at the trading deadline. But realistically, those two guys are bridge players. They were brought in to give the Braves and buy the Braves another year of development for some of their youngsters in the minor leagues. And really, looking back to last year, was a tale of two seasons. The first half, they were absolutely awful. They were on pace to, break the Mets record of futility in 1962 or whenever it was. And then they turned it on, and I think they finished 24-14 over the last 38 games. They were a force. They were a very good offensive team with the addition of Matt Kemp. Whether that continues or not remains to be seen, but they're going to have Dansby Swanson every day at shortstop. Ozzie Albies will be up at some point playing second base. They need another catcher to team with Tyler Flowers. They like the outfield of Kemp and Inciarte, who's a Gold Glover, and Nick Markakis in right. Freddie Freeman got off to an awful start, but had a tremendous second half of the season. That's more Freddie Freeman-like. So the Braves like what they have. They need a catcher. They need some more bench pieces. They need another starter. They're trying to get Chris Sale, among others. And if they can do that, moving into a new ballpark and the revenues that that's going to produce after this season, I think the Braves can very quickly get back into the thick of things in the National League East, if not the rest of the National League. But quite obviously, they can't afford to get off to the kind of start they did last year, a start that cost Freddie Gonzalez his job. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the moves they've made. I love watching Bartolo pitch. It's great to see him every fifth day. And if the Braves can pitch it all, and if the offense does what we think they can do consistently, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Braves could be in the mix for a wild card spot as early as 2017.
Chip, one more before we let you go, and like you just, sort of alluded to there a moment ago, when you get back here to Atlanta, you're going to be in a shiny new broadcast booth in Braves, new stadium here in Cobb County. Are you excited about the move, or will it sort of be odd not to be, first of all, in the city of Atlanta, and then not being in Turner Field any longer?
No, that won't bother me at all. My memories were my really good memories were at the old ballpark, Fulton County Stadium. I certainly won't miss the traffic going down through the connector every single day, going to and from the ballpark. But no, I'm excited about it. It's going to be a new chapter in Braves baseball. Look, whatever reasons were given for the move was made. It's out of our control, and we're excited about a new place, a new chapter, the revenues, the new fans that we're going to draw to the new ballpark. I think all of those things are going to be great, but ultimately it comes down to one thing. How many games are you going to win? And how will the new ballpark help the baseball operations people get better players and win more games? At the end of the day, that's really what matters. The Braves could play in Kennesaw, Stone Mountain, Athens. They could play in Ringgold, for that matter. People would come find them. But I think our fans are great fans. They've been spoiled by success, and I mean that in a very positive way. They understand what good baseball is about. They demand good baseball. And I think our fans deserve a lot of credit for sticking with the organization the last couple of years through what needed to be done, a total teardown. But I think the moves that John Hart and John Coppola have made have been shrewd. I think they've been good. I think they were the right moves. And, again, like the Chicago Cubs, the Braves have been very vocal and very honest about what their plan is and what they're trying to accomplish. And if the plan works, everybody's going to be happy. If the plan doesn't work, well, there'll be new people and a new plan. And I don't think it's going to come to that, but that's the business of baseball. But the new ballpark notwithstanding, I think everybody's looking forward to the start of baseball in 2017, because the end of 2016 gave people a great foretaste of what I think is going to happen. And if that's the case, it should be a much more exciting, much more fun, much more entertaining year, both in the booth and hopefully at home and in the stands as well.
Chip, remind our listeners before you go how they can follow you over social media.
I am on Twitter at Kapaya1, Kapaya1234, and Facebook as well under my name. And you guys keep up the great work.
Thanks,
Chip. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come back on the show. We look forward to catching up with you, hopefully again real soon. Have a great Thanksgiving, and all the best to you and your family, my friend.
You too, Chris. Thanks so much. Take care.
All right, take care. That is Braves TV announcer Chip Caray, and I tell you, Bob, it's a very interesting story if you kind of dig into the Caray family and understand Chip's life and as he grew up and the relationship, between he and his father and he and his grandfather. As you said, there at the top, didn't really have much of a relationship with his grandfather, which is very sad.
It is, Chris. And I was thinking all those times during the World Series, how many times his grandfather's voice was mentioned and the feelings that were going through him, what it was all about. And, again, very emotional, but, I guess you just have to he's got that feeling for the Cubs and the Cub fans over the years, and you could see how it comes out. But an incredibly seasoned and well-spoken professional. We always love to speak with him.
Absolutely right. All right, we've got our next guest, Russell Baxter, hanging on the line. Before Russell joins us, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Podbean who have been so very good to us, featuring Thursday Night Tailgate and our golf show Next on the Tee on their site. If you're listening to the show as a podcast right now, we hope you're doing it via the Podbean podcast app. On their app, you can get instant updates about our new episodes sent right to you. It's free. They've got great features that easily let you discover and listen and even publish your own podcast if you want to. So whether you've got an Android or an iPhone, Podbean is the app for your podcasting needs. Get the app now on Google Play or on the Apple App Store, so you can enjoy all the podcasts that you love. And we hope one of them, or two of them really, is Next on the Tee and Thursday Night Tailgate as well. So please check out our good friends at Podbean. They have been so very good to us and featuring us every single week here over the last several weeks. All right, now joining us and making his 12th appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is 2015 Thursday Night Tailgate Hall of Famer, NFL stats guru Russell Baxter. And it's humbling for us to say that someone of Russell's stature, both around the game of football and in broadcasting history, really, is making his 12th visit with us on the show and is also a member of our Hall of Fame. Russell's first appearance came all the way back on November 8th of 2012, so very early on in our show's history, and we thank him so much for that. Be sure to check out Russell's website, profootballguru.com, and make sure you follow him on Twitter, @BaxFootballGuru. You can read his articles on the Bleacher Report and NFLSpinZone.com, and no one on the planet knows more about the NFL than Russell does, and we're honored that he is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Russell, thanks for coming back on the show, my friend. How are you?
Good evening, Russell.
I'm great, gentlemen. I have to issue one correction, though. And I appreciate the introduction, Chris, but I left Bleacher Report at the end of June, so I'm now doing End Zone Score, Fansided, the Sports Post, and NFL Spin Zone. So still keep it very, very busy, and every once in a while we make an occasional appearance on Good Morning Football and the Nerd Bowl. So things are still hopping.
Good for you, Russell. So, Russell, I want to start off our time with you tonight by getting your take on a couple of things that I asked Bob at the top of the show. And first of all, we started off talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And really, Russell, is it time for all of us to embrace the fact that not only do they have the best record in the league and the two best rookies in the league, but really the Cowboys just might be the best team in the league right now?
Well, they have a game plan and a formula that defies any rule changes that we've had over the years, okay? And the NFL is always looking to change rules to favor the offense. But when you have a ground attack that keeps your defense off the field and keeps the opposing offense off the field, you're going to win a lot of games. It parlayed the Cowboys into the NFC East title back in 2014 with Romo at quarterback and DeMarco Murray in the backfield. The Offensive Player of the Year that year was DeMarco Murray. And yet, what people forget is that while Murray had a big year, 1,845 yards rushing, led the league in total yards from scrimmage, people forget that Tony Romo, not everybody forget, because there's about 8 billion people in the world, so I really can't say everyone forgets, okay? Tony Romo threw 34 touchdown passes that year and 9 interceptions. Kind of goes under the radar. How's that? That's probably a better and Des Bryant had 16 touchdown receptions that year, led the league. So in a year, it's unfortunate for the Cowboys team, and things just happen. they wind up having two guys hit free agency. One leads the league in rushing, and the other one leads the league in touchdown receptions. You don't really run into that problem too often, but all's well that ends well, and Des Bryant's still with the team, and now it's a younger battery with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, who I think Ezekiel Elliott is a strong candidate for MVP honors. The kind of runner he is, the physical runner that he is, already over 1,000 yards. I know people don't get all about 1,000 yards, but gang, it's 9 games and he's over 1,000 yards. Let's, put that in perspective. But that offensive line, Frederick and Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, et cetera, they are gaining confidence as a football team. And defensively, I think they're better than they were 2 years ago. I mean, Sean Lee is staying on the field for the most part. They've gotten DeMarcus Lawrence back. He helps with the pass rush. They're playing like a football team should. The offense complements the defense and vice versa.
So, you mentioned Tony Romo, Russell, and that's the other thing Bob and I were talking about at the top of the show. And certainly Romo's contract is pretty prohibitive, and there's going to be a lot of dead money, that the Cowboys would have to carry. But and we all know that the last couple of years of a contract, for an NFL player, you very rarely ever see that money. But I can't imagine that the Cowboys have Tony Romo on their roster as their backup quarterback in 2017. Do you think he gets traded? Do you think they release him? What do you think becomes of Tony Romo after this season?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious now with everything that's happened this week that he won't be there next year. And I think what they need to do is sit down with Tony and ask him, and I think they owe him this because he's been saying, and listen, theoretically they don't owe him anything except money. But, Tony, do you want to be dealt? Tony, do you want to be released? If you're released, you can sign with anyone. If we deal you, it's, who can give us the best deal? And, that's the business aspect of it. Okay? And it'll be interesting to see what teams do with Tony. I mean, he has been injury prone. I mean, the thing that sticks out about last year, guys, is, he didn't get hurt once. He got hurt twice. Okay? And I love Tony Romo. He's one of the great undrafted stories ever. People love to point out the negative, and there's only one way. There's only one way to screw up a snap in a playoff game. Do you know what that is? Get to the playoff game. For the people who used to bash Marty Schottenheimer and Jim Mora, they didn't have teams that were 0-16. They lost in the playoffs. Okay, that's like coming in 32nd in Miss America. Okay, you're still in the running. But again, and the last time I checked, only one team's allowed to win the championship. So I mean, if you want to go down that path, let's not. But he wound up covering up certain things for the team. And isn't it? See, and here's the thing, because I know there's so many people who get so focused on just the quarterback. Okay, why is it that every team who gets the support of a running game, suddenly the quarterback's better? And why does a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who loses his running game, suddenly is a one-man show? This is not a one-man game. Some of my media brethren who bring up, like Sandy Koufax beating Bob Gibson, that's the way they get, Dak Prescott beat, Ben Roethlisberger, or Dak Prescott beat, it's not how it works. Nobody in their right mind watches a football game and says that. Look at some of the revival of teams because they have found their running game. We talked about Dallas. What about Miami? 4 in a row. Their offensive line settled in. They found their running game. All of a sudden, they're sitting 5-4. And by the way, only 2 games out of first place in the division.
Right.
Okay? So, I mean, look around. It's really, honestly, not that difficult to figure out. You look at Seattle the other night. They got contributions from the ground attack, and it's been a ground attack that's been enormously disappointing this year. Okay, Procise comes in, he's really a converted wide receiver and safety, plays running back. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson looks like Russell Wilson again. Okay, so it's not that difficult. Okay, we want to dumb it down sometimes to make it like the quarterback is out there playing 1 on 11. Okay, it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. And
Right.
Depending on how certain teams finish and go down the stretch, you better have your whole house in order. You can be, and listen, you don't have to be perfect in every department, but you better have some semblance of something. And more importantly, you better play some defense in this league. I know it's offensively driven, but, we saw a subpar offense, guys, win the Super Bowl last year because of their defense.
Defense wins championship, right, Russell?
Well, it does. I mean, here's what it is. If you have a dependable defense, you're going to stay in games, okay? If you have a dependable offense but an undependable defense, your defense is going to keep the other team in the game, okay?
Right.
That's why tonight we got New Orleans and Carolina. I'm shocked it's 3-3. I thought it was 3-3 before the game even began, okay? The last two times these teams have played, 41-38 each time. 1-1, the Saints won earlier this year, late last year, Carolina won. Okay, so 3-3 is really kind of a surprise. But, a team like the Atlanta Falcons, I give Atlanta a lot of credit. Okay, they have really bounced back. Guys, they're averaging 32 points a game, and they're average giving up 28 a game.
Right.
Okay? I know a faction of people in Vegas who are over the moon over something like that. And if you understand what I'm talking about, it's great. But the whole division is like that. Okay? I mean, you need a calculator just to add up the points allowed by the four NFC South teams this year. It's crazy. I know Atlanta's played one more game. I'm just going to do it real quick. Atlanta 283, Tampa Bay 242. New Orleans, by the way, has scored 265 points and given up 263 points. Now we'll update that. They've now scored 268, and now they've given up 265. Okay? Carolina is like the defensive stalwart of the whole division. They've only given up 226 points in 9 games, which is basically 25 a game.
Bob,
did I answer your original question, by the way? I completely forgot. So.
Yes, you did. 5 questions for Russ?
And Russ, you talking about that NFC South, it reminds me of the old ABA, run and gun. Score up and down the court. But, yeah, that's kind of what it's
You just gave me a great idea. For the NFC South games, they should change the color of the football.
There you go, red, white, and blue.
To the red, white, and blue. Am I right?
That's right.
That's right.
I used to have one as a kid. Man, that was great. But
I would ask you. A lot of us did. That was wow.
Oh,
this is cool.
That was great stuff, yeah.
I think I had that one with my Slinky.
Yeah, Kids, can you imagine kids playing with that now? Nah. Not enough stimulation.
No, but the kids are able to do now? They can put together a meme of an ABA football.
That's right.
Basketball, and then send it to each other.
Yeah, that's true. I would ask you, Russ, about 2 of the games that caught my interest and brought up some questions. Number 1, last week, Seattle going into New England. Patriots they're not going to run the table, but was there a statement made there at all, Russ? I mean, that was incredible that they could not put the ball in the end zone there. Seattle, of course, on the road with that defense, with the big stop. They're filled with confidence now. What do you take out of that game?
I uncovered some inside information regarding NBC's contract with the NFL and the fact that they, let's keep in mind here, they had Super Bowl 49 and they had the game the other night. And apparently there's a clause in the contract that says every Patriots-Seahawks game has to come down to play calling on the 1-yard line.
Right.
At the end of the game. I mean, I was so caught up in that game the other night that I couldn't understand why Bill Belichick didn't run Marshawn Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How much fun was that game? It was a chess match. It was. New England's on a roll. Seattle comes in with, listen, they had that second. Defensively, they have not been over the top this year. They've been good. But we saw Buffalo move the ball on them. We saw New Orleans move the ball on them. We saw New England move the ball. A little vulnerability to the run, okay? I mean, without Michael Bennett in there, their front seven's not as tough when it comes to stopping the running game. But the secondary, and with Chancellor back, I mean, my goodness, the hits that were going. I mean, it was a fun day. I give a lot of kudos to Seattle making, we make such a big deal out of cross-country trips and traveling and all that stuff. I mean, first off, I have to remind people that the Seahawks did not take a car. They flew. Okay? More importantly, they went in there with a mindset they weren't intimidated. They just played this team in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So I don't think there was a lot. Obviously, some personnel had changed, but not a great deal. It wasn't like a Super Bowl from 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I give Seattle a lot of credit, and I think the thing that if you're in New England that you have to be slightly concerned about, and I wrote a piece on End Zone Sport today, is if their defense is a problem. I don't think it's a problem, but you could certainly throw up a flare. The lack of a pass rush and the inability to create turnovers is not something you're used to seeing from the New England Patriots. Okay, I mean, they had 21 takeaways last year. That's not a huge number, I know that, but that's more than one a game. They had 49 sacks last year, second only to Denver's 52. I think this year they have 17. Chandler Jones is having a terrific year for Arizona. They just they just traded Jamie Collins, just like they did Chandler Jones. The Patriots only have 5 interceptions this season. Okay, I mean that's as many as Marcus Peters, and there's another player that escapes my mind right now who also has 5 picks. But what's even more disturbing, guys, is 2 of the 5 picks were by Jamie Collins.
Right.
So where's the playmaking by this team? Listen, this whole league is into bend but don't break defense because they make it hard for you to do anything but. Okay.
Right.
But you're simply not seeing their defense come. Okay, and listen, I understand the idea of outscoring teams, okay, and getting in the shootouts, but inevitably that doesn't work. Okay, you can cite example after example after example. I mean, if you guys have heard my stats, obnoxiously, the 8 highest scoring teams in NFL history in terms of points per season, no Super Bowl wins. Okay, 1 quarterback throwing at least 40 touchdown passes in the season. Kurt Warner, only one to do that and win a Super Bowl the same year. Manning's 55 didn't do much good. Brady's 50 didn't do any good. Peyton's 49 didn't do any good. Marino's 48 didn't do any good. You either won your fantasy football league or you were MVP, but not a championship. So, again, semblance of defense. Have some sort of semblance of defense. And, those are going to be the teams that rise up down the stretch. The teams that can run the football and control the game. And if they do have defensive weaknesses, keep their defense off the field as much as humanly possible.
And, Russ, one more about the spec to the Cowboys in that Steeler game last week. And Chris, I'm sure, would be interested in asking you this also about Tomlin's play calling as far as him going for 2. It did come down at the end where they had to change their strategy because of their inability to make these conversions. It was kind of a wild decision, and we're hearing some criticism about him. They're going to go into Cleveland, of course, and roll this week, get back to 500. But current state of the Steelers and Tomlin right now?
A bit perplexing. I think the bigger problem, though, besides, and listen, I didn't like it from the get-go because it was that. No, listen, somebody I know will say, they wound up losing by 5. I understand all that, but the mentality of going for it continuously and continuously failing certainly has to take a lot out of you. But inevitably, this is not a very good defensive football team. They had a lead with 42 seconds left in their own building and let it get away. Okay? I mean, that to me is the thing that will ring from the game. Their also inability, which is very unsteelable. Listen, the Steelers' secondary has certainly taken a lot of heat, and rightfully so, certainly understandable. But we have now seen Jay Ajayi, and we've seen LeGarrette Blount, and we've seen Ezekiel Elliott gain at least 100 yards rushing. Ajayi went for 200 yards rushing. You're not used to seeing the Steelers give up that many rushing yards and get abused by running backs. And Elliott did it, not only as a runner but as a receiver last week. The underneath linebacking play has to get better. I know they've got a lot of young defensive backs, but front several, and now Cam Hayward out for the year. That's a huge blow to them. A huge blow because he's one of those complete players that, almost the heir apparent to Aaron Smith, who was such a great player. Not a ton of sacks, but just enough. Great against the run. When the Pittsburgh Steelers can't stop the run, you've got a problem. So you're going to lose 35-30, or you're going to lose 38-37, or whatever it's going to be. And I got news for you. Isaiah Crowell can run the football. So, if the Steelers think you're going in there 31-10 this week, be careful. Ben Roethlisberger spends a lot of time on the sidelines because they can't stop the run.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me, Russell. I mean,
I figured.
Go back, and we all know what Mike Tomlin's record is with the Steelers, against teams that are under 500, how abysmal that's been. And two of the losses going back to 2009 have come against a 1-9 and a 2-10 Cleveland Browns.
Listen,
I have no, I don't think this is a cakewalk by any means.
Now, listen, when you don't play good defense, no game is a cakewalk. That's the bottom line.
Russell, before we let you go, remind our listeners all the places that they can follow you over social media and read all the great things that you're putting out.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been far too long, to be honest with you. I'll blame your booking agent for that. So. I'll make it easy on you. I write for Enzo Score. I write for NFL Spin Zone, Fan Side at the Sports Post. Back with Enzo Score and Sports Post, within the last couple months. The Sports Post, I love doing long features. I just finished one on why the Tennessee Titans are a playoff contender, which talk about a great story. And by the way, talk about a team with a young quarterback and a running back and some big first-round picks on their offensive lines. Does it sound like the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah. Do you think DeMarco Murray likes running behind lines with first-round pick?
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, he's second in the league in rushing for a guy who everybody thought, the Eagles just didn't use enough. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Follow me on Twitter at Bax Football Guru, and whether you like it or not, you're going to get everything I ever write. That's not a promise. That's a threat.
That's right. Russell, thank you so much for your time, my friend. We'll have you back sooner, I promise.
Oh, absolutely. Call me back in 20 minutes.
All right, sounds good.
Take care.
You guys have a great
Take
night.
care, Russell.
Thanks.
All right.
That is Russell Baxter, NFL guru. Again, you can find him all over there. ProFootballGuru.com is his own website. Great stuff, as always, with Russell.
No, we love him.
All right,
and that's why he's in our Hall
before
of
we
Fame,
get to our next guest, Randy McMichael, I want to give a shout-out to our good friend Renee Shull over at Career Engagement Institute. And, folks, if you're upside down in your career, and what we mean by that is you're ready to move on, go to careerengagement.institute online to see how Renee can help you. You've heard, our guest brag about her. Toy Cook has been singing Renee's praises, when he's come on the show. And if you work with Renee for 2 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why Toy did that and why we do that every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. We all want to work with someone that we can trust and actually has our best interests at heart. You know how rare it is to find someone like that. Well, no one fits that description any better than Renee Shull does. She is a wonderfully talented lady, the kind of person you want to work with and have working for you. She's been doing some great things for some of our guests who've been in transition from being pro athletes and are now in getting into the job market. Folks, I'm telling you, Renee is just the very best. There isn't a better way to describe her than that. If you're an athlete or anyone in the job market, do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be so very glad that you did. Go to careerengagement.institute online and give her a follow on Twitter at IntegratedPlay. All right, now back with us and making his fifth appearance with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Randy McMichael. Let me remind you about Randy's background. He is from Griffin, Georgia, which is about 45 miles south here of Atlanta. And not only was Randy one of the top 50 football players in the state of Georgia when he was in high school, he also lettered in basketball and in track. He attended the University of Georgia, where he was a 3-year letterman. In 1999, he was named a first-team freshman All-American, and in 2001, he was named first-team All-SEC. He finished his college career ranked 9th on Georgia's all-time receiving list. He was drafted in the 4th round in 2002 by the Miami Dolphins, and he played tight end in the league from 2002 until 2012 with the Dolphins, Rams, and Chargers. He became the Dolphins' first rookie tight end to start all 16 games, and over the course of his NFL career, he had 426 receptions for 4,539 yards, and he scored 24 touchdowns. And every time he joins us here on Thursday Night Tailgate, he makes his segment so much fun for Bob and I to be a part of, and we're excited that he is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Randy, Chris, and Bob here. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, Randy.
What's going on? What's going on, fellas? How are you?
Fantastic, Randy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Good.
Watching.
Randy, I wanted to start off our time with you tonight here by getting your thoughts on your alma mater, the University of Georgia. How you feel like they're doing so far. Big win last Saturday over Auburn, but I'm guessing 6-4 and 4-4 in the SEC isn't exactly what you had in mind when they started off this season.
It's exactly what I had in mind when I was asked what I thought their record would be this year. I said 8-4. I actually said 8-4, and they're getting better. They're still young. Got a young quarterback, a young first-year head coach, first big-time job. No depth on the interior. A turnstile at tackle. I mean, we're getting better. We're getting better. Last year was a big-time win. It don't matter how you score the points as long as you got more than other things. That's all that matters.
And Randy, Georgia, typically is annually, one of the top teams in the country with respect to incoming recruiting classes. We see them always near the top of those rankings for the incoming team or incoming freshmen. But you've seen so many players like yourself and so many great players from the University of Georgia go on to great careers in the NFL. Yet Georgia's typically about a 3 or 4 loss team. If you go back to 1980, what do you think the program needs in order to get themselves in the national championship mix?
First of all, we have to win the games that we're supposed to win, and then we're supposed to win the games that are even, and then we're supposed to win the games that we're not favored. That's basically what it is. And I know we always talk about, we always have these top recruiting classes. You do realize that's high school football they're playing, not college. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that hype of, we got this 5-star. Well, he's a 5-star high school player. That don't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to transfer. So you have to develop them. And I think Kirby's doing a great job. We have so many young players played this year, so that's an important experience. And I'm so excited about this defense next year. And then we have a quarterback who, you have a freshman quarterback. The one thing that you, the team, the fans, the alumni, we all go through them bumps with them. And we've been going through them bumps with Jacob Eason all year. But this kid has talent. And I'm excited about next year. But we still got 2 more games this year. And I'm excited to see if they're going to continue to build off of what they've been doing.
So let's switch it up a little bit, Randy. How good is Alabama right now when you watch them?
Well, the one thing about them is you look at it when Nick first started winning championships, everybody was big. It was pro style. He had the 2-down nose guard. He had the 2-down 5 techniques, and he would bring in a pass rusher. He had big linebackers. But then when that spread offense, he was giving them problems. He got away from all that. He still got big physical guys, but they're all athletic. And this is the most athletic defense I've ever seen Nick have. These guys, Jonathan Allen and these boys up front, it's unreal how they get after people. And the only way I think you can beat Alabama, because remember last year we saw what Deshaun Watson did, that won't be an issue. You need a guy to sit back in that pocket and an O-line that can possibly hold up and give him time to throw the football, because they're so athletic and they're still big that I don't see anybody challenging them right.
Bob, questions for Randy?
It's great to speak with you again, Randy. And
Bob.
When we look over a remarkable 11-year career that you had, and you kind of split it between 3 cities, Randy, is the first one Miami? Is that where your heart is always? It kind of sounds cliche, but you played a tough 3 years in St. Louis and ended in San Diego. Is a team like Miami still a team that you would be privy to follow as opposed to the others as far as where you started at all?
What's so funny is, this past weekend, Miami and San Diego played against each other. Everybody was asking me, who am I going for? And I was mute on. I'm a Miami Dolphin at heart. I got my aqua jacket and all that stuff. I'm going down for alumni weekend, go out to the 50-yard line and get my name called. That's my team. They drafted me. I have all the records there. And, St. Louis is just like the dark hole in my mind. I just forget about those years. But, after those 3 rough years, I could not have picked a better place to end my career than in San Diego. I mean, it was awesome. The team, the fans, the city. I mean, it was just awesome. And even though they wanted me to come back, I was like, you know what? The old man just can't do it like I used to. So instead of, I'm looking on tape and I'm like, oh my God, Randy, that's you. So I was like, when I said that about myself, when I said that about myself, I was like, you know what? It's time to hang it up. God has blessed us to play this long, and but I will always be a Dolphin, always.
Randy, we talked to Andra Davis earlier in the show, and he talked about how his beat-up body has given him a lot of trouble at this time. Now, you played, again, 11 years. You played 20 games more than he did at a very physical position. Just as linebacker is, as tight end, it's tough. Without getting too personal, I mean, bumps and bruises, how do you handle it these days?
Oh, you know me. I'm a country boy, man. We don't worry about pain. It eventually go away. Just grab me some Tylenol in the morning or some Motrin or whatever and move on. You know, Dre's my man. We came out together and everything. So I know Dre really well, man. But you know, it's just simple wear and tear. You know, you can't sleep on one side too long at night. You got to keep flipping. And you know, as being a married man, when you flip and you wake her up, she gets mad at you. So eventually we're going to end up having bunk beds or twin beds because I keep her up all night. But you know what? I remember when I was 7 years old, my mama signed me for football. Said, Randy, you're going to get hurt. It's going to hurt. You're going to cry. You ain't going to quit. And I always took that in my whole career because I signed up for it. I knew I was going to be hurting after I finished playing. I knew I was going to have problems. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Randy, when you look at the success that tight ends like Rob Gronkowski and Martellus Bennett are having, they're in New England. Do you watch them? Do you look at them and say, "Boy, man, I wish I could have had a chance to play in a system like that"?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. I mean, it's great. When you're a great tight end, it helps when you have great quarterback play. I played with Antonio Gates in San Diego my last few years. Antonio Gates had Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers as quarterback. I mean, come on. I mean, you look at Gronk. Gronk plays with Tom Brady's whole career. I mean, when you look at, all these great quarterbacks, Tony Gonzalez, Brink was a bad boy. He comes to Atlanta and played with Matt Ryan. I mean, it helps play quarterback. I played with 18 quarterbacks. But I don't dwell on none of that, because, I was meant to have the career I had. I had a great career as a receiving tight end in Miami. Then when I got to San Diego, they wanted me to block and be a tough guy, and that's what I was. So, I just like to do whatever the job entails. These guys got great quarterbacks, and I just wish I could have had that. But, hey, it is what it is.
And Randy, you're talking about the Dolphins. For the first time in a long time, the Dolphins look like they just might be a playoff threat. 1-4 in a row after starting out 1-4. Do you think they have what it takes right now to make a run into the playoffs?
I think so, because they're doing something. First of all, I love Adam Gase. I love what he did when they went on that. I thought after the Tennessee game, I was embarrassed the way they played. He cut some players and all those things. But they solidified the offensive line. They're running the football now. And they're not asking Ryan Tannehill to win the game. They're not telling him to manage it, but they're telling him you don't have to win the football game because he can't do that. They showed that at the beginning of the year. He cannot do that. So what they're doing is run the football, asking to throw the ball when they have to, and his defense is playing lights out right now. They're being very opportunistic, and they're playing L.A. this weekend. So that's 5 wins in a row because L.A. can't get out their own way.
Sure.
And Randy, when you look here locally at the Atlanta Falcons, and we were just talking about this with Russell Baxter a moment ago, their offense is the best in the NFL. They're averaging 32 points a game. Matt Ryan is having an MVP-type season. Julio Jones leading the league in receiving yards. But their defense is near the bottom. They're allowing 28, so they're scoring 32, but they're giving up 28. Do you think the Falcons, can they compete with the Cowboys and the Seahawks once we get to the playoffs?
I want to say yes, but right now I don't know because, they can score. I'll give them that. But they're better at scoring when they're getting everybody involved. Yeah, Julio had a big game against Philly, and Doug and Gabriel had that one big play. Wasn't it? They didn't spread the ball around. And they need to run the ball. They got runners, run it with them. Defensively, they just got manhandled against Philly. And if you think Philly O-line is going to do that to them, could you imagine what Dallas' offensive line would do to the Falcons' front? They got to get tougher. They got to get tougher front. Vic Beasley is coming along well as far as the pass rusher, but they can't get off the ball. And they're still young at the linebacker position in the back end. So, gradually they get better and better and better. And by the time the playoffs come, they, solidify some things. But right now, they're in a world of trouble.
Bob, one more for Randy before we let him go.
Yeah, Randy, being the team guy that you were, and I probably know the answer to this question, you scored 24 touchdowns, but being asked to do so many things as a tight end, did you get just as much satisfaction as throwing an incredible block to spring a running back for a touchdown?
Oh, my God. You know what? Whenever you would watch tape and I was blocking or a teammate was scoring a touchdown, I was always the first person celebrating. Because the way when I first started playing tight end, my coach would not let me play unless I blocked. And so I was an O-line. I won best O-lineman. So I love blocking. And it was always one of those things where you would always see me running down the field. If I had a block or a running back ran off my block, I would run downfield with my hand in the air. I just want to play football, and that's what I tell everybody. I ain't worried about numbers, and the only thing I worry about is playing.
So the other thing I got to imagine, Randy, that you got an award from somewhere, whether it was in Miami or in San Diego, you had to get some sort of high-flying award, guy that jumped the highest, jumped over the most guys, something along. Because every picture I find of you, you're jumping over somebody, you're leaping in the air, you're doing some sort of thing near the goal line. You had to get some sort of air award. Did you get the Air Jordan Award or something?
Well, I mean, I still hold my high school record for the high jump at 6'8". But you know what? I don't know why, but and I promise you, my mother was always calling some Randy, stay on the ground. She would every weekend, and stay on the ground. And then once I started getting caught, I stopped jumping. But then it's just something that it's a natural thing. But you know what? I've jumped over more people than I've been caught, but don't get caught because it hurts. That's a long way down, fall on your head and your shoulders.
Sure is.
Bet it was. Randy, before we let you go, let our listeners know, how can they follow you online and over social media as well?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at RandyMac81, man. You know me, I'm always fun, especially I think I'm the funnest follower on game days because I watch all the games. I give you insight all day. And I'm just a fun guy. I don't swear as much as I used to as I'm getting older. And my son has a Twitter. He follows me, so I try to curse as much as I used to. But, yeah, I have a good time. That's where you can find Randy Mac 81.
There you go. Randy, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come back on the show. You're always such a great time we have when we get the opportunity to speak with you. You're a great guest. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, fellas, anytime. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, take care, Randy. That is former Dolphins, Rams, and Chargers tight end Randy McMichael. And Bob, I tell you, you look him up on Google Randy McMichael, and then look at the images. Randy is always jumping over somebody, leaping over something. It's amazing what he when you talk about guys hurting on his body and that sort of thing. That's because to his point, he could jump really high, but it is a long way down, and I'm sure. Landed on the shoulders and everything else that he had to land on. Certainly, talk about being sore in the mornings. I'm sure that certainly contributed to it.
Yeah, he was at the front of that list, Chris, of more athletic tight ends that we're more familiar with these days. Back then it was a guy that blocks that can occasionally catch a pass, and we know that guys like McMichael kind of revolutionized the position. If you've seen, he had some good years catching 70 balls. That's a lot. And but again, you could see what kind of team guy he was. That's why I love fullbacks and tight ends, because they're asked to do so much and they're so selfless. And he's a great analyst of the game too, Chris, and that's why we love having him on.
That's right. All right, when Bob and I come back, we'll be turning on the Thursday Night Tailgate spotlight on the positive here, which players are doing great things in their communities, and then we'll wrap up the show, and we'll do that on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and Kyvan Foods.
Are you suffering from ongoing pain from athletic injuries in your knees, shoulders, or hips? Tired of living your life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. Dr. Peter Candelora and his experienced staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and new medical technology will ensure you'll be enjoying life again in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora has been specializing in joint replacement, athletic injuries, and general orthopedics. Visit us on the web at athleteinjuries.com or call our office at 888-825-1150. That is 888-825-1150. We're proud sponsors of the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcon tight end, and I'm the owner of Kaiben Foods. And if you enjoy delicious food, you're going to love my Kaiben products, which consist of our honey apple salsa, sweet barbecue sauce, and an array of seasonings. For store locations, online orders, and recipes, check out our website at www.kaiben82.com. That's KYVAN 82.com. One taste, and you'll appreciate the goodness.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
And we're back here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we're turning on our spotlight on the positive. Bob, who do you have for us this week?
Chris, I was doing some research into some of these quarterbacks on the teams, and it seems like the high-profile quarterbacks all do good things, but some of the guys that you may not hear about much are also involved in some great things. And one of them is Juice Stanton of the Cardinals, Chris, a backup. He has his own foundation. It's called the High Five Foundation, and he raises funds for a lot of different charities, Chris, and just a few of them that I came across were the Special Olympics, the Children's Miracle Network, cystic fibrosis, many others. He does a lot of things, and he's just interested in raising awareness in just inspiring people that maybe don't have the best outlooks on life, and for people that are down on their luck. But it's been going strong since 2008, Chris, and ironically, he calls it the High Five Foundation because he tries to do a good 5 major fundraisers a year, including golf outings, auctions, things like that. And up to this point, it's been very, very successful. I know this past summer, his golf tournament raised close to $100,000, and again, it gets split among those aforementioned charities and things like that. So he's doing some great things, Chris. So it shows you don't need the really, really big name to go out there and do some great things off the field. And Juice Stanton is doing just that. So kudos to him.
Absolutely right. And Bob, tonight I want to put the spotlight back on Lions wide receiver Anquan Boldin, and we've highlighted him in the past for the great things that he is doing with his Q81 Foundation, which is expanding the educational and life opportunities for underprivileged children. Well, now he's taken the lead to help improve the relationship and the trust between law enforcement and the African-American community. Boldin, along with Glover Quinn, Malcolm Jenkins, Andrew Hawkins, and Josh McCown, went to Washington, D.C. earlier this week to discuss police brutality and issues related to race, with the folks, in Congress. And Boldin's cousin, Corey Jones, was shot and killed by police last year when he was just waiting for roadside assistance to show up. So the group met with 3 state representatives plus members from the Congressional Black Caucus to talk about ways to increase trust between the African-American community and law enforcement. This was sort of, Bob, what I think is football's version of the gun violence announcement that LeBron James, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade did, back for social change, back at the ESPY Awards earlier this year. So, sort of a very similar type feel for what these guys, what Anquan Boldin, these guys are trying to do. And the NFLPA is working with the players to help maximize their influence off the field, to use their celebrity status, if you will, Bob, to influence, the public and lawmakers and really help, make change, if you will. And Boldin said, he's going to, work hard and continue to stay on to kind of close the trust gap, if you will. And Jenkins said, I think at this point, if we have a strong opinion about these things, this is a time where we have to use our voice, because laws are going to get passed, things are going to come to pass, and if you don't stand up now, you're just going to have to live with it. So, and like I say, the NFLPA is working to help, organize meetings with Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, and members of the White House staff, to kind of get everybody working together to solve this problem, right? So, Bob, kudos to Anquan Bolden, and the other players as well for taking steps to help, improve the relationship and the trust between law enforcement and their communities in a positive, doing it in a positive and constructive way, to continue to help, work and make a positive thing, make this a positive thing and for the lives of, the people that are affected and the people, in their communities. So, and doing it, like I say, Bob, in a constructive, positive way, not, protests and violence. Protests have their place for sure, but doing it violently and inciting that sort of stuff, are too many things that we're seeing in our country right now. So kudos to Anquan Bolden for getting a group together, going up to Congress, talking to Paul Ryan and different people throughout his congressional districts to first of all, we all see that there's a problem, but he is taking a leadership role to figuring out a way that we can fix this and bridge this gap. So kudos to him.
I think the perfect word you used, Chris, was constructive. And there's so many ways people are trying to get their points across these days. You and I are on the same page with the national anthem garbage, and we have a lot of this other stuff going on. But yeah, some of and Tony Collins would be the first to say, get out there, be active, be proactive, do something in the community to make a difference, and the rest, none of this lip service stuff. And kudos to Bolden, who's actually acting on things like that instead of just being a quote-unquote symbol.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. So, yeah, kudos to him. Kudos to the other players. Kudos to Drew Stanton for doing what he's doing. So, again, folks, these are the types of stories we're going to bring you every single week here to let you know the great things the players are doing to make a difference, make a positive impact in their communities and around the world for that matter. So tune in here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, our Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive. All right, Bob, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode. We want to send our thanks out again to Andra Davis, Tony Collins, Chip Caray, Russell Baxter, and Randy McMichael for joining us tonight. And, Bob, thank you, my friend. It's always the biggest privilege of all to get to spend my time with you on Thursday nights.
The pleasure's mine, Chris. And, again, happy 5-day anniversary. And they say it wouldn't last, my friend. And I wish you and your bride many, many years of good health and happiness. I truly mean that. It's my pleasure.
I appreciate you, Bob. And next week, folks, next Thursday, it's Thanksgiving, so we will be off. But when we're back with you on Thursday, December the 1st, our guests are going to be, we're going to have Mary Seau, Junior Seau's sister, will be here to join us talking about the CTE Foundation she started in honor of her brother. So really looking forward to hearing her thoughts and her insights when we get back here. And also joining us that night, former Pittsburgh Pirates play-by-play announcer Lanny Fratteri will be making his TNT debut with us. I grew up listening to Lanny broadcast Pirates games, so very excited to have the opportunity to talk with Lanny. We'll cross over into the world of drag racing for the very first time here on Thursday Night Tailgate. We'll have 2015 IHRA World Champion Dina Parise will join us here. Very excited to get the opportunity to speak with Dina. Our good friend and former Giants and Eagles quarterback, now head of the NFL Alumni Association, Joe Pisarcik, will also be back with us. And, of course, Patriots running back Tony Collins will be here to go back through our 5-star picks of the week. So we're going to have a lot of fun when we're back on December the 1st. We hope you'll come back and be a part of it with us. Want to remind you, how can you follow us on social media? Well, first, on Facebook, we have the show. Thursday Night Tailgate has a show page. Both Bob and I have our own individual pages on Facebook as well, so you can interact with us on any one of those 3 places. Give us, on Thursday Night Tailgate, please give our page a like. That's very important to us. On Twitter, you can find me at CT-mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. Plus, you can stream or download any of our archive episodes, like you heard me talk about earlier in the show. Great podcasting sites, Podbean. Those guys have been so great to us in recommending the show and putting us in their banner ads and on their mobile app over the last several weeks. Can't thank them enough for their support. You can also stream us on places like iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Audio Boom, Player.fm, SoundCloud as well. So you can take us with you anywhere you go. And if you have a favorite app and we're not on it, please let us know. We'll make sure we get on there for you. But please check us out. And our preferred site now is over on Podbean. Please check us out there. Bob, take us home, my friend.
Okay, Chris, and I think you join me in wishing all our listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. And also thanks go out to our announcer, Joe LaGenusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for our upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris, we thank everyone tonight for listening. We appreciate you the most. Until next week or the week after, good night, Kevin. We miss you.